Can it be not your best season, but your most impressive coaching job? We always like parsing that type of thing. It's his second best season. It's the second time he's won the division. The last time it took up until the end of the year. But to do it with three quarterbacks, to win a division with three quarterbacks is insane.
I think the 13-3 season is a season that most coaches have, like when they really become a star, right? They just have a huge season. They win a bunch of games. Maybe they go to an NFC championship game. Obviously, he went to the Super Bowl and had a chance to win it. I think where you become a really good coach, and we've talked about this forever with Kyle specifically, it's about doing it over and over. Like part of just being a legend is, Belichick didn't win the Super Bowl every year, but he went to like 15 AFC championship games. So that meant every single year he's winning 12, 13 games. Every single year. It's like, well, he beat up on the NFC East or the AFC East. It's like, yeah, we also watched him play the Steelers every year and Peyton Manning and kick the shit out of them. So it's like, yeah, he did take advantage of the bad teams in his division, but he also played other good teams, and they typically won those games. And I think Kyle last year was tough, right? It was a roller coaster ride, but the result was worth the craziness of the season. And this year, I would say at 3-4, we were hard on him. A lot of fans were hard. It just felt like this is going to be crazy. Now, we didn't know the way the division was going to turn out to be with the injuries and everything, but are you really going to struggle to get to like 9 or 10 wins? Because that's what it felt like at 3-4, and you just got blown out by the Chiefs. You start doing the math. You're like, you're just going to go back and forth, win one, lose one, and be like, you could be 8-9 or you could be 10-7, but it's going to feel very similar. And then he won 7 fucking straight games. And I think, and clearly he played a big role in this, I would say a monumental moment in his 49er tenure and just his career as the boss. The McCaffrey trade was a swing move for him in his career as a 49er.
Yeah.
And I when that happened, I thought it was fucking pretty nuts. I bet if you turn on the podcast, I thought it was an overpay. But clearly he's played a huge role. And I don't know. Are they a playoff team without him? Probably still, yeah. But it's that move, which I believe to my core, and they'll never admit it unless you know them personally. They tell you the truth. That's Kyle. I mean, the second, third, fourth. And I mean, that's a coach thing. And obviously he's known the family. I'm not saying that John and those guys wouldn't want him to. He's an unreal player, but that move is looked pretty good. And clearly he's using it like that was his move, right?
Yep.
And that was they needed something right around that time, right? Because I guess they were 3-3 going to Kansas City, but they were kind of holding on tight to the rope.
They just lost to Atlanta.
Yeah, something was off. They needed a little jolt. Isn't that the thing like baseball players talk about during the trading deadline? When you like add a guy, it's like, oh, they believe in us. And I'm not saying that like Fred Warner or Nick Bosa needed that, but can you imagine being in that locker room and be like, fuck, we just had Christian McCaffrey at 3-3? That's a pretty monumental move just in general in the NFL anytime you make a trade like that. And look at the Rams last year when they got Von Miller, but like got Christian McCaffrey. Like Von Miller, very, very famous player. And Von was obviously more accomplished. He'd been a Super Bowl MVP, but just in terms of like fame and stardom and just like this guy can come in and help us. And they've never really looked back. And it feels like I don't have his touchdown count, but if you had to say MIDDLEKAUFF, how many touchdowns he scores tonight? 9? I mean, seriously.
What do you have tonight? 1. So he has 1, 2, 3 receiving, 1, 2, 3, 4 rushing.
That's 7. He's thrown 1. That's 8.
Thrown 1. That's 8. So
I was close.
Yeah, good guess. I thought your number was too high when you said it. They put.
Do you agree? Was that a swing moment?
I think in multiple ways, right? Like if in the future we'll see Christian, from a health standpoint, you did get a superstar level player. And I think part of the question was obviously by far the biggest question with him is health. But I think, I don't know, I wouldn't say I'm surprised, but I think it's pretty incredible that on this team with superstars, he stepped right in. And if you just put him, if you said, all right, we're taking a team photo, all the superstars over here, even though McCaffrey's been on the team for, only half the season, he'd walk to where all the superstars stand, right?
Yeah.
And some people might think he's the biggest superstar of all of them. If you just think about like his football life to this point, obviously Bosa's have been great, but if you just said, all right, here's a photo, it's Debo, it's McCaffrey, it's Trent Williams, it's Bosa, it's Fred Warner. Who did I forget? I left somebody out. Oh, Purdy. But if you just said, here's these guys, right? Like Christian, like I've just thought about what you just said when I've seen like some locker room. There was a photo
Use
from
check.
Sunday Juice, obviously. There was a photo from the post game the other night, and it was I think it was Fred. It might have been, was it Fred, Nick, and Christian? Kind of just like still in their pads in the locker room. And you're just looking at it like, holy, look at these guys. Like, look at these three guys. Look at that guy. When you just add a guy like that in the middle of a season to a team, and then he, we could debate who's their most important. I mean, Bosa's been freaky important, but.
Did you see the clip on social media last week? It was Chris Forrester was talking to the media, and he was saying that like McCaffrey came up to him after the game, and this would have been after the Miami game. And obviously they just, win 33-17, enormous win. And it's just like, fuck, this team might be really good. And he said, McCaffrey came up to me and was like, I missed an assignment on Pass Pro. That won't happen again. And Forrester looks at him. He's like, bro, we just won 33-17. You're fine. Like, relax. We're good, man. Celebrate. Give me a hug. Like, just chill. But he's like, that's the type guy he is. Coward last week had Montana on. He has Burrow on every week on his podcast, and he brought Montana on, and it was the three of them. But it was basically just Montana and Burrow. And I watched it, and I've listened a couple times, but watching like Joe Burrow is, and I text Colin, I'm like, Joe reminds me a lot of like the Warriors guys, just very calm, like just very, very impressive. And then I was like, McCaffrey is like one thing I've noticed. McCaffrey has felt a lot like a Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Like just watching his press conferences and like reading things, the way people talk about him. Like, I guess not that I didn't think he was like that, but you're not focused in on a guy when he's on an irrelevant team. He's a really, really high level guy. And the guys, Kyle, like think of the guys that he leans on. And this is where I give him a lot of credit is from the Trent Williams move to obviously trading for, Christian McCaffrey. Even his quarterback room is Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, and Jimmy Garoppolo. Like really high. Like I give Kyle credit on this. He has and he gets shit on this when people talk about his quarterbacks historically. Is like I think he's got a pretty good feel for what works. D'Amico was like known as Mufasa. I think that was his nickname. Like super high level. Everywhere he went, team captain, people fucking loved him. That's Kyle's guy. What happened last year? Welker and Ayuk didn't get along. Who'd he sign with? Fucking Ayuk. Wes, you're not. Who else didn't get along with Welker? Belichick. I'm not anti-Welker, but, I got to give Kyle some credit on that. I choose Ayuk over Welker too. And even Ayuk mentioned it earlier in the season. He's like, people, he said it after the Miami game. He's like, yeah, people know. Like, actually, we don't. Me and Welker used to butt heads a little bit, but I went up and it's all love. That was news to me. But it's Welker ain't here randomly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Kyle's got a pretty good feel. Like, all of his guys are just not fuck around guys. Like, it's a lot of serious cats, man. What did they do? Extend Greenlaw early in the season. What's Greenlaw? Turn into fucking, like, Bowman Jr. I mean, well, how did they see this coming? It's crazy.
It's probably why they have maybe a slightly different view of McGlinchey than the public does, right? Or everybody else does.
But the difference is, like, I can live with a Greenlaw missed tackle. It's like McGlinchey.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying, like, he fits their profile of guy.
Okay, well, resign him 1 year, $2 million.
I mean, I don't think you said this. Kyle's in love with Juszczyk, right?
In fairness, I've never heard Kyle defend McGlinchey. It's more Lynch.
Yeah, that's true. all
Kyle
the running
probably just-
backs they've had for the most part. Mostert had some weird trade demand or whatever, and they basically ignored him, right? But I see all the running backs kind of feel like they fit that mold. Marquise Goodwin wasn't, not quite that guy. He's gone.
Well, who's like, I mean, they clear Hufunga to me. Hufunga,
Hufunga.
Like, I mean, I
Jimmy-
texted somebody
Jimmy
today.
Ward.
He's like, where I fucked up evaluating him. I underestimated like his instincts. I had him as a linebacker, and clearly he's got limitations in the back end. But you saw tonight, and even I think again, Herbie. I thought Herbie was pretty locked in tonight, even though they can't say it's Ebukam. It's just Samson Ebukam. It's a pretty easy name to say. Him and Al struggle with that one. Which, in fairness, if you don't follow,
I feel like Al was saying it Herbie's way to kind of cover for.
Which I'll give you a pat. It's not like Fred Smith. But the one thing you see with Hufunga that I bet they loved, they loved in college, he was just crushing people. But then I bet you get to know him and like him. He's like, oh, he's our type guy. But you would think a lot of other coaches would really like him. If you told me like the Patriots loved him, Andy Reid would like him. Some teams, though, get like, and this is where Kyle has gotten criticism over the years. Like he'll lean with the less physical traits for the guy. And so a lot of coaches that like high-level guys would just be like, yeah, he's not fast enough to play on our defense. Right? Because that's not like Hufunga just speed in the space. They're like, yeah, can't do it. Kyle's like, yeah, we'll figure it out. He's a high-level guy.
It doesn't show. I mean, you did this for a profession. Sometimes you just have to Purdy, Hufunga, you just have to see it play out on a field before you can really know the projections. So Kyle leans with, at minimum, I can trust the person, and I know he'll compete, right?
And for both those guys, for example, Hufunga gets to play on a defense with Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Eric Armstead, Jimmy Ward, Charvarius Ward, right? I mean, Lenore's becoming feels like a pretty solid player.
He has. I'll say this too for Kyle. You and I have talked about this over the years, and it's not really a compliment anyone wants to hear, but like his teams have never, even when they've been bad, they've never felt like they lay down. And his teams do seem to deal with adversity pretty well, right? Like his teams year to year have dealt with a lot of adversity, and they really handle adversity well. Now this year they are thriving through adversity. Again, we did it. What was the list of teams that have started three quarterbacks that we came up with?
Rams, the Panthers started
is what we wanted to go with.
I think it ends. I think it ends there. The Jets, but Flacco played, but he didn't start.
He didn't. Oh wait, Flacco did start early in the year though, didn't he?
I think that was last year.
Okay.
I think.
So if we're forgetting a team, but that's
potentially that was either last year or this year, but yeah.
Historically, starting three quarterbacks, I think you said this the other day. It doesn't take
well, look at the Panthers. Look at the Panthers and the Rams. They're having a rough season.
Yeah, it's a recipe for a disaster. And Kyle Shanahan's going to win his third guy's a rookie.
One thing I saw
credit too for picking this guy over Sudfeld, right?
Well, yeah, they noticed it early on.
Oh yeah, the beginning of the season, remember? Yeah, Flacco did start early.
Totally forgot. Oh yeah, because he got hurt in the preseason, huh? He rolled his knee. Good call. Zach Wilson and Trey have had bizarre careers, huh? But you know what? In the history of sports, more often than not, those type careers happen than Patrick Mahomes, right? I think this is the thing, we all think, and more often than not, Brock Purdy becomes Kirk Cousins, right? That's usually how it happens. Most people are not like, number one overall pick called up after year one, Ken Griffey Jr. I mean, that's those guys, like this guy, Andy Reid trades up 5 years later, best quarterback ever. Like that's usually not the way it works.
Right.
It's like all the hype sucks. All the hype, average. All the hype, traded. It's usually like not that much hype. Dak Prescott, that's usually the way it goes.
Do you think, it does make me wonder.
It's what makes, honestly, sports pretty cool.
100%.
Because
that everybody universally goes, you can't win like this. And here they are. They've won. It does make me wonder if Kyle would he have drafted Zach Wilson? Because it feels like Zach, at the most important position, would have not been a total fit with the guys that Kyle typically likes from a personality standpoint, leadership standpoint.
I don't think so. Because I have friends that weren't huge fans.
We talked about it. There was plenty of whispers before the year.
Yeah.
One of the benefits of drafting character guys, they don't give up, says Benjamin. Pancho Villa says Kyle deserves coach of the year. He's winning with 3 different QBs. So we talked about this the other day, possible coach of the year. It's going to be hard to take it from Nick Sirianni.
What's his minimum? 15-2, number 1 seed. Does he get it?
Lock. Yeah. And even if he goes 13-3, which means he finishes, 13-4, right?
Yeah, he'd have to lose out though, right? Or go 1-3 down the stretch.
1-3. Even that, are they still the 1 seed then? No, the Niners actually could end up. We'll see Minnesota. The Niners Philly's not doing that, but yeah, I think my coach of the year.
Dallas only has 3 losses, and they still play Philly.
Dallas only, yeah, it's true.
Dallas sneaky big game this week against the Jags. Jags are hot.
Saturday night. They're putting Christmas Eve. Oh no, that's next week.
That's next week. Yeah.
Wait, Jags is this week?
Yeah, it's I think it's Sunday morning.
So, Eagles Cowboys is Saturday night, Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve, yeah.
What number is that sucker going to do?
That's the Saturday night Christmas Eve game.
Thanksgiving game. Eagles Cowboys.
I'm not going to lie, I haven't even looked ahead that far.
I heard Greg Olson.
That feels like it gets caught up.
The only reason I was even thinking about it is because I listened to Greg Olson on a podcast talking about. He's like, I haven't been to Jacksonville before.
Oh, that's the game they're doing.
They're doing that this week because it's the Cowboys. It's just
he never even played Jacksonville as a player.
Well, he didn't say. He just I took it as hadn't broadcasted, but I'm sure he went and played there before.
No, maybe not. He played for the Bears in Seattle, right?
Yeah, so Niners. Oh God, Niners play at the same time as Eagles Cowboys.
So it's not the night game; it's the afternoon game.
No, the night game on Saturday, John. The night game. The night game, the standalone 5:15 Pacific night game. Raiders Steelers. Raiders Steelers.
Can that be flexed? How many games? You're telling me Eagles
Saturday's
Cowboys
overloaded with games.
Well, there's only 3 games on Sunday.
Ugh. I guess Christmas Day. Okay.
Why wouldn't you move Cowboys? What are we doing?
All right. I just want to finish this point on Shanahan, and we can complain about that on the beginning of next week's pod. So I would put Shanahan right now.
It's the only sport where you start talking about next week's game, whereas this week's still being talked about. No other sport does that.
I would put Shanahan right now. I'd go Sirianni, Kyle. I'd go Sirianni and then Kyle right now. Coach of the year.
Yeah,
who would
Zach
Kyle
Taylor,
be behind in the NFC?
Zach Taylor won the Super Bowl, so even if he wins 13 games, it's like what?
Yeah. And he's done. That's legit. He's
Andy ain't getting it.
No, which always sucks. Like if we think
Vrabel's falling off a map.
McDermott, Buffalo,
yeah.
Legitimate candidate. He's legit. To me, you have a great team, you deserve. But are they a great team? Whatever. I think it's Kyle number 2 right now.
Feels like it's going to be very difficult for him to get it.
Yeah, he just as long as Philly's the 1 seed, to me, yes, then they're getting it. But